Hi guys, and welcome to Tobysblogs. Today I'm going to be talking about a historical thing. It's a project that I've been working on for my degree. It's one of my modules about later years and adolescence, and within that I chose to do Hitler Youth and Nazi Germany. And it's kind of growing, and I've been doing research on it for the last 2 days, and so I thought I'd come together and talk about it really. And it's just I'm starting to include a couple more things into my essay and research project now, more stuff into it like Nazi education and turn that off, noise. Anyway, Nazi education. Nazi education, Hitler's ideas of brainwashing, and the total manipulation of the German youth. And so yeah, I thought I'd just come together and talk about this. I thought it was researching this. It's absolutely amazing the way that the German people got away with this, and the way that they manipulated the whole of the young people of Germany. And after all the nasty, horrible things they've done, you could say they were kind of bits of genius. They're a bit of genius because they were able to brainwash and manipulate a whole nation of young people, and it's just amazing the way they did it. Okay, let's start off with on my notes about German education. I was kind of reading. Yes, so the idea of Hitler Youth and the youth organisation was mainly Hitler and his party, the Nazi Party, the National Socialist Workers, German National Socialist Workers Party, or the NDAP, or the NSDAP. The NSDAP. Yeah, the Nazis really. Yeah, their party, they wanted to use the children. From the very early off when the party was formed, they wanted to use the children. They saw it as the centre of their movement, and so they wanted to use the children because they saw the children as the long term survival of their party. Because once Hitler's gone, once all the others are gone, there's still the children there, and then when the children are fully indoctrinated, they're full-blooded Nazis. They live the Nazis. They have all the ideas. They're brought up around the ideas and the ideologies. They are full Nazis, and so that's the idea. The children will go on and continue on the party, and so that's what they were after. And this is a little quote that Hitler said, which I thought was rather weird. It might take a while to understand it, but it's weird. When an opponent declares, "I will not come over to your side," I calmly say, "Your child belongs to us already. What are you? You will pass on. Your descendants, however, now stand in the new camp. In a short time they will know nothing else but this new community." Yeah, which I understand that to be. Hitler sees the children as his people, and he owns the children. Yeah, he sees the children as his and not anyone else's, because he's a supreme leader of Germany. He can do what he likes with his people. Hitler is saying that he already has the descendants of the parents, which are the children. So he's talking about the parents, talking to the parents, saying that he's already got their descendants, their children, in his camps already, and are standing in the new camp, and soon will know nothing else than the Nazi community, the Hitler Youth. The children are not his. The children are not the parents; they're his. Hitler's saying, "Your children are not yours anymore; they're mine. They're mine. I can do what I like with them." And so he's saying that even if your parents say, "No, we're against Nazism," they'll say, "No, your kids are in my camps. They're in the Hitler Youth. They are working for me." and I think that was quite a nasty view of children. And the Nazis came in, they changed education, they indoctrinated it with the youth, and they specialised in bringing up patriotism, like being a patriot, by saying that Germany is great, and through all the lessons of like, oh, Germany is fantastic, it's great, we love Germany, and the idea of the new education was to drill into the children that Germany is something that is so brilliant, so good, that we have to be proud for, that we would kill for, that we would die for, this brilliant nation. And that's what the Nazis were getting into people's minds. And they used biology as a way of teaching about genetic purity, by saying the Nazis are all fantastic and lovely, and you should not interbreed with Jews or something like that. And they use that. So yeah, it's the way they've manipulated education. They've gone into education and they've changed it for their own way. So you can see how they were able to brainwash all these people by going into the education system, changing what's been taught, and using education for their purpose. And so what they've been taught at school were all Nazi stuff. All stuff that was taught in their schools was made to enable them to use the children in that way, to be indoctrinated into the Nazi ideologies, be proud of their country and their nation, and to talk about genetic purity and that kind of thing, and talk about history and the glorious history of Germany, etc., etc. And so but then they moved to other movements, like the youth movements, and tried to manipulate them by that. But then the education used to be normal until 1934, until it was passed over to the Reich Ministry of Education and Science, which then once the Nazis had control of education, they can manipulate it as much as they like. The teachers kind of did not. Yeah, and this is one about history, that in history they were taught, this was read to one of the this was an actual story that they used in their history lesson, which was a 14-year-old reads this story: a German soldier putting a spear, a bayonet, into the ribs of a Russian soldier, and so he collapsed groaning, and the Russian soldier is referred to as it, and there it lay before him, simple and distinguished. So just saying that this Russian is a load of old crap. It's a bit of shit. It's a bit of garbage. We don't care about this Russian. We grab our bayonet, we stab it into its ribs, we watch it in pleasure as it groans and dies, and it's just on the floor, distinguished. It's like it was a bug. We've squished it. It's no longer existing. And that was read to a 14-year-old kid. So that kind of says how the Nazis enabled the education and changed it. And it's quite weird. Yeah, patriotism. They also set up special Nazi schools as well. They set up 20 Napolas schools, National Political Education Institutions, and 10 Adolf Hitler schools, both boys of secondary school age and boys of college age. The schools emphasised physical training, paramilitary activities and political education. It was for those who were meant to go into the Nazi Reichstag, which is their government, or go into politics and become future Nazi leaders. So yeah, they had special schools. This thing I read today about from a book about Jews and stuff, about this boy watched loads and loads and loads of Jewish men being loads of men being escorted out of the courthouses, and all these men were being loaded into rubbish trucks. These people are being loaded into rubbish trucks, all tightly packed into these rubbish trucks, and all these men and women were being taken out of there, and they were being violently handled and cursed, and they all had to hold on to each other to keep them all safe from falling out of the truck. And the boy found out later that these men were judges and court attorneys and lawyers, but all of them were Jewish. And so yeah, a child of a very young age, witnessing that. Youth groups, okay, we're going into youth groups, okay, I've only got a few more minutes. Youth groups are all formed, but when the Nazis came to power, they banned all youth groups and said no, only Nazi youth groups are going to go through, which is the Hitler Youth. And apart from the Catholic ones, because Hitler had an agreement with the Pope not to disband Catholic youth groups in Germany, which I think the Pope was a complete stupid idiot, because the Nazis stood for mass murder, and they were split into different groups: the Young Volk, which means young people, the Hitler Jugend, the Hitler Youth, and all these other different groups. Men and women split up, blah blah blah. Yeah, and the way that Hitler did this to enable the children was he sparked rebellion. You could rebel against your parents, you could go to book burnings. They lured them in by this sense of rebellion, and also lured them in with this sense of rebellion also with all these, we're going on activities, the Hitler Youth is fun, come in. And it was kind of like that creepiness of like, oh look, the Hitler Youth is fun, look at all these posters, look, everyone's having so much fun, it is the most funnest place you could be, come in. And it's like it actually said in this book that I was reading that the Nazis wanted to control the mind. They wanted to get into the minds of the children. They wanted to control them, and the way they could get them in was to put on all these events and say, oh, the Hitler Youth is fun, it's fun, come in. And they lured all these children in so they could manipulate their minds. And I thought that was, wow. They've got all these children, they're luring them in, they're come on, it's fun. And in their Nazis' mind, all they want to do is manipulate the mind, brainwash. That's all they want to do. And I think that was kind of amazing the way that they did that. And they succeeded in doing that, which was weird. But there was opposition, of course. Some people saw the Nazis as a huge threat. Apparently there was like 3 million Germans have been arrested for such stupid crimes as writing a little note saying, oh, I do not like Nazis, and that kind of thing. And there was opposition like the Edelweiss Pirates, who were a youth group who rebelled against the Hitler Youth and said, well, we can be all our American culture, blah 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 blah, we can have all this other thing. And they put out propaganda against the Nazis, and a lot of them were rounded up and hung. And so yeah, so Hitler didn't really like well, some young people who didn't agree with him, they would just hang him. I think it was really amazing the way that the Nazis can will their way in, lure the children in like the child catcher, and manipulate their minds to form and be strong Nazis. And even when Hitler died, when he committed suicide, and the Russians and the Americans and all such came into Berlin, all the children still thought that that was the right thing, that Nazism was the way. They were strong. Everyone in the nation was still strong Nazis. This is what's happened. This is real. This is what's happening. And it took years and years to rehabilitate them to think that no, what happened was wrong. It was wrong. Hitler was so desperate at the end that he even had children guarding the posts, and even children were dying. Children had their little things, so all the soldiers had died, and they just got the children out, which was horrible. And apparently, I was reading that some of the children went into the concentration camps and looked at all this stuff because they were the soldiers, and it was like, yeah, it was awful Nazis. Yeah, so that was my research, and I thought I'd share that with you if you're interested, and just kind of books to read and things. So from Toby, goodbye.